There you are, once again, tripping over the same stone. Don't tell me it was a coincidence. Let's face it, have you ever wondered why you keep repeating the same mistakes? Is it a lack of learning? Or maybe it's a lack of desire to learn? I'm going to tell you a truth that may hurt. The problem is not in the world, in the circumstances, or in the alignment of the planets. The problem is in you, in your mind, in your insistence on repeating patterns like a broken record. Stoic philosophy makes this very clear. If you are not able to look inside and take responsibility, you will remain trapped in the same vicious cycle. So stop justifying yourself. Stop blaming fate. It's time to face the real adversary, your own choices. Honestly, how many more times do you need to stumble to understand that the problem is not the stone, but the way you walk? Pay attention to the following Stoic lessons, especially the last one, which could change everything for you. Let's go. Tripping over the same stone must have happened to you. You face a problem, you try to do the right thing, but in the end, you end up in exactly the same place. The cycle repeats itself, and instead of finding a solution, you are faced with the same obstacle, as if you are trapped in an invisible maze. Why do we repeat the same mistakes? It's easy to fall into the illusion that the problem is out there, in circumstances, in other people's attitudes, in an excess of distractions. But the truth, although uncomfortable, is that the greatest enemy is not in the world. It is within us. Imagine walking through a dark forest. Branches hit your face, you stumble, fall, get up. And when you pass the same place again, you trip over the same route. Why does this happen? Because you don't see the route. Your mind is so focused on the pain of falling or the frustration of not moving forward that it becomes distracted, repeating the same patterns without reflection. The Stoics talked a lot about this. For them, repeating mistakes isn't bad luck, it's lack of attention. If we don't reflect on our own steps, we are condemned to repeat the same stumbles. Instead of looking for blame on the outside, we should look inward and ask ourselves, why am I making this choice? What pattern am I repeating without realizing it? To break this cycle, the first step is to identify the hidden traps. They are not always visible. They are often hidden behind our prejudices, fears, and unresolved expectations. But if we start to observe our actions with a more critical eye, we will be able to notice these roots, these stones, before falling into them. The key is constant reflection. Why did I do that? A powerful technique to avoid falling into the same traps is conscious pausing. Before making important decisions, stop, breathe, analysis. Are you just repeating the previous pattern or actually choosing something new? If you practice this pause often, you'll begin to spot these invisible traps before they get you down. In short, the reason you keep making the same mistakes isn't out there. It's in the way you think, decide, and act. Break the cycle of unconscious repetition. Start seeing the stones in your path before you trip over them. Only then will you be able to truly advance. As a Stoic proverb said, the greatest obstacle to finding solutions is the blindness caused by repeating the same mistakes. Now let's talk about bad decisions. Have you ever stopped to think about why you repeat the same mistakes so many times? No, it's not bad luck. It's not the universe against you. The explanation is much simpler. Your brain is stubborn, and worse, he loves being like this. If you've ever felt trapped in a cycle of choices that you know aren't in your favor, know that you're not alone. This repetitive behavior has more to do with the way your mind works than some cosmic conspiracy. Let's understand better. The human brain is, by nature, a defender of comfort. He prefers what is familiar, even if the familiar is not healthy or intelligent. This tendency is called psychological homeostasis. In other words, the brain prefers to keep doing what it already knows, even if it doesn't lead anywhere. It's like someone who, after failing in a recipe, insists on preparing it the same way, hoping that by miracle, one day it will work, even though they know the result will be the same. Now you may wonder, why do we keep insisting on wrong choices? This is where the concept of cognitive justification comes in. To avoid the discomfort of doubt, the brain creates excuses that make the wrong choice seem acceptable. For example, you procrastinate at work and convince yourself that you perform better under pressure. Or even, after yet another toxic relationship, you say it was a learning opportunity, when in fact you just repeated old emotional patterns. What happens is that when your brain decides that comfort is more important than the truth, you enter a cycle of repetition, even though you know it hurts you. This has a biological basis. Our reward system linked to dopamine reinforces behaviors, even if they are harmful, simply because they are known. But not all is lost. If at any point you have ever wondered how to break this cycle, know that Stoic philosophy can be a powerful ally. The Stoics, those sages of the past who knew the human mind like few others, insisted on the importance of self-awareness and discipline. According to them, the real enemy is not what happens to us, but how we choose to react. If you can take a step back whenever your brain tries to justify a bad decision, you will begin to regain control of your life. It's like a dog in the park. Instead of chasing it, you take the lead and lead. To start changing this pattern, practice consciously pausing before deciding, am I acting out of choice, or am I just repeating what feels comfortable? Recognizing patterns is the first step to breaking them. The next time you make a mistake, instead of criticizing yourself harshly, treat your brain like a stubborn child. Guide it patiently. Offer smarter alternatives. Sometimes, the first big step towards change is simply not giving in to the pressure of repeating what you've always done. As Epictetus reminds us, only when we stop justifying our mistakes are we truly free to make wise decisions. That welcoming place where everything seems under control, where predictability reigns, and where we feel safe in the midst of chaos. Yes, it's familiar. We all seek that feeling of comfort. But have you ever stopped to think that this very desired convenience could be your biggest enemy? This comfortable refuge may be silently sabotaging your growth and impeding your progress. Let's take an example. Imagine you are driving a car in neutral. You feel relaxed, the engine hums, everything feels good, but there's a problem. You're not moving forward. It's still stuck in a paralysis disguised as comfort. Even worse, over time, you may convince yourself that you don't even need to leave. After all, everything seems to be working. Well, that's exactly what the comfort zone does. When you settle in it for a long time, you stop learning, you stop changing, and what's worse, you start repeating the same mistakes as if you were stuck in an invisible loop. This tendency to stumble over the same stones, to choose the same faulty paths, is like looking for a shortcut that always leads to the same dead end. Settling in may seem harmless, but in practice it becomes a silent prison that impedes your development. So what to do? First, you need to wake up from this self-deception you have fallen into. The Stoics already knew. True change doesn't happen when everything is easy. It flourishes precisely in difficulties, in challenges, when we are forced to leave our safe place. It's not about waiting for the world around you to change. It's about being the change itself. And yes, change is uncomfortable, but it is this discomfort that pushes you to grow. One way to start getting out of your comfort zone is by practicing self-observation. Ask yourself honestly, why do I keep making the same mistakes? The answer is simpler than it seems. Convenience blinds you. It makes you believe that what you already know is enough, when in fact that's what keeps you stuck. So every time you feel like settling, do something different, even if small. It is not necessary to change everything at once, but to take small steps towards the unknown. The objective is clear. not to allow comfort to keep you stuck in neutral. Look for new challenges, new opportunities, new lessons. Real learning only happens when you dare to push the boundaries of what you already know. It takes courage to throw yourself into uncertainty. Have you ever reflected on how many times you found yourself repeating the same mistakes? Waking up late, postponing appointments, promising to start tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. You find yourself stuck in cycles of impulsive decisions, as if you are on autopilot. Why does this happen? Because habits, often unconscious, take control of your life. It's like driving a car on autopilot. Everything seems under control, but without realizing it, you're following a path you didn't even consciously choose. These automatic habits, these small gestures that we repeat without thinking, keep us trapped in the cycle of the same mistakes. Without reflection, we continue to act as we always have, believing that it is the easiest way, when, in fact, it is a trap. Stoic philosophy teaches us precisely to be aware of our thoughts and actions. Without this awareness, we lose ourselves in impulsive and repetitive decisions, perpetuating patterns that lead us nowhere. How to change this? The first step is to recognize that you are operating on automatic. It seems simple, but it's more challenging than it seems. That's where the power of reflection comes in, stopping, thinking, and acting with intention. Start paying attention to your daily choices. Ask yourself, does this bring me closer to where I want to be? Start with small actions. Wake up 10 minutes earlier, do that task you've been putting off, change one small habit at a time. This way, you begin to regain control of your decisions. Replace automatic habits with more conscious actions aligned with your goals. This process is gradual, it doesn't happen overnight, but constant practice will bring control back into your hands. Life doesn't have to be a succession of repeated mistakes. You can change course, but to do so it is necessary to pause, reflect, and act differently. Only when you become aware of your habits are you able to break the cycle. As the Stoics said, true freedom comes when we stop being slaves to our impulses. So the next time you're about to make the same mistake, stop, think, change your path. Start writing a new story, yours, not that of old habits. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, if you don't change your habits will change your life without you even realizing it. And now let's talk about learning from mistakes. Ever feel like you have a special ability to make the same mistakes over and over again? Sometimes it feels like we're stuck in a never-ending cycle of bad decisions. But what if, instead of seeing mistakes as failures, we started seeing them as masters? Mistakes are not repeated because we are incapable. They repeat themselves because we don't take the time to analyze them, understand their origin, and learn from them. How many times after a mistake have you promised yourself never again? And a short time later, there you were making the same mistake. The reason is simple. We don't reflect on what led us there. If we dedicated a moment of true attention, we would realize that every mistake brings a valuable lesson as long as we are willing to listen. Converting mistakes into wisdom requires a change in perspective. The Stoics have always argued that mastering our thoughts and emotions is one of the greatest human achievements. Next time you stumble, instead of getting frustrated, take a break. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What did I do wrong? What could you have done differently? This reflection turns a mistake into an opportunity for growth. It's not about regretting or blaming yourself excessively. Stoic philosophy teaches us that not everything is under our control, but our reaction is. If the error came from something beyond your control, accept it and move on. If it was your failure, take responsibility, learn, and continue. Another powerful practice is to share your mistakes with someone you trust. Often, we are so trapped inside our own heads that we can't see what's in front of our eyes. Talking can open up new points of view and turn a stumble into a stepping stone to growth. Don't be fooled into thinking that mistakes are just tragedies. They are learning instruments. If you turn every mistake into a lesson, you will be closer to avoiding repetition, and, more importantly, you will be closer to the person you want to become. So, the next time you make a mistake, instead of asking yourself, "Why did I fail?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Mistakes are not falls. These are steps towards building your success. Don't be fooled by the idea that the problem is out there. As the Stoics teach, true control lies in our emotions and reactions. And finally, stop relying on the old excuse that this time will be different. It won't be, unless you actually change. The difference is not in the plans, it is in the actions. As the ancients said, those who don't change their way of thinking continue to stumble over the same stones, even if they paint them different colors. Have you ever felt like your life becomes more complicated the more you try to hold on to something or someone, as if, no matter how hard you tried, everything slipped through your fingers, bringing an uncontrollable wave of stress? What if I told you that the secret is not in holding on, but in letting go, to take a step back? I know this may sound like cheap self-help advice, but trust me, letting go is one of the most powerful acts you can take. Take a step back, silence, breathe, and trust that life will call you to move forward again at the right time. Letting go is not abandoning what you love, nor stopping feeling. It's understanding that what you own shouldn't own you. When we live chasing after everything, we lose the peace that could be ours. Catching on is easy. It's difficult to let go, but that is precisely where true freedom lies. Detachment is not a renunciation, it is a liberation. When you stop holding on, you gain clarity, lightness, and mastery over yourself. Interestingly, the universe puts us in situations where we are forced to stop, to wait, to remain silent. Imagine an endless discussion. The impulse is to say more, to prove your point. But what if, instead, you took a step back and remained silent? Not out of weakness, but out of understanding. Silence creates a powerful space, a void that forces the other to reposition themselves. True power is not in winning the argument, but in not having to win it. Stoic philosophy talks about this detachment in a practical, not mystical way. Letting go is accepting what you cannot control and focusing on what is within your reach. Freeing yourself from the weight of expectations is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. This doesn't happen overnight. It requires practice, self-knowledge, and patience. But when you learn to take that step back, you discover a peace that nothing and no one can steal. The next time you feel the urge to grab, stop, breathe, and let go, you will be surprised at the lightness it brings. Record this truth. True peace is not in what you have, but in what you are able to let go. Enjoy and leave your mark, give a like, and show that you want evolution. Have you ever reflected on why you keep making the same mistakes? I'm not talking about small slips like forgetting a light on. I'm talking about big mistakes, the ones that, deep down, you already know you should avoid. According to the Stoics, the root of these errors lies in how we deal with our emotions, especially fear and guilt. Fear specializes in paralyzing us. You even want to change, but deep down, you're afraid of failing again. This subtle fear makes you hesitate, act impulsively, or worse, avoid acting. It's like an abused dog that, faced with any similar situation, trembles with fear, even without real danger. So we spin in circles, trapped in stagnation. Fear doesn't disappear with empty promises. It needs to be faced consciously. As the Stoics teach, we don't control what happens around us, but we control how we react. If fear drives your actions, you will inevitably repeat the same mistakes. And if fear paralyzes you, guilt sinks you. How many times have you made a mistake and instead of learning, you punished yourself so severely that you could barely stand up? Guilt, when poorly managed, becomes a weight that drags you down even further. The secret is simple but powerful. Instead of wallowing in guilt, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I do better next time? Fear and guilt are inevitable, but the power you give them doesn't have to be. Practice what the Stoics called rational indifference. Acknowledge your emotions, but don't allow them to dictate your actions. Accept what is out of your control and focus on what depends on you. When fear or guilt tries to overwhelm you, take a deep breath. Remember, these feelings are fleeting. They don't define who you are. If you fall, get up. If you make a mistake, learn. This is the key to breaking the cycle of mistakes. How many times have you found yourself saying, "I did it again"? That mistake you knew you should avoid, but still made on impulse. The truth is simple. The problem is not a lack of intelligence, it's a lack of pause. Acting in the heat of the moment is like driving at full speed and ignoring a sharp curve. Impulsiveness condemns us to repeat the same mistakes. The Stoics knew this very well. They practiced what they called reflective pausing. Before you act, stop, breathe, think, if I do this, what might happen? And if I don't, what changes? It doesn't have to be a long meditation or a complex analysis. All it takes is a few seconds of awareness, and these few moments can completely change the course of your decision. Another powerful technique is to visualize the consequences before acting. Are you going to make an impulse purchase? Think, will this expense bring me a loss later? Are you going to say something in the heat of anger? Imagine the impact your words can make. Visualizing before acting teaches you to weigh consequences wisely. In addition, cultivating gratitude also helps to contain impulses. Many times, we act on impulse because we miss something. But by being grateful for what we already have, this anxiety lessens. The desire to act hastily loses strength. In short, pausing before acting is an art. A small break can free you from big regrets. Life is not a sprint race, it's a marathon. Those who know how to stop, reflect, and act with purpose will go much further. Are you able to reflect on your purpose? Leave in the comments, "I have a purpose," and admit that you will go far. Have you ever wondered why you keep repeating the same mistakes even though you want to change? It's not bad luck, it's not destiny, it's the story you tell yourself. If you see yourself as a failure, guess what? Your decisions, conscious or not, will reinforce that image. And not because it's true, but because it's what you believe. The beliefs we carry, often without realizing it, shape the path we take. But here's the good news. You can change this story. It's not about becoming a naive optimist and pretending that everything is perfect. It's about changing the meaning you attribute to your stumbles. If you see your mistakes as the end, you will remain stuck in the cycle. If you see it as learning, you will adjust your route with each stumble. The Stoics taught us that difficulties are not curses, but opportunities in disguise. It's not the mistake that defines who you are, it's what you do after it. Imagine an airline pilot correcting the route during the flight. Each adjustment is essential to reach your destination. Your life works the same way. Every mistake is a sign that you need to adjust your path. Identify the narrative that has limited you. Rewrite your story. You are the protagonist. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. What matters is how many times you decide to get up. Change the way you talk about yourself to yourself, and you will see that your choices, your results, and your life will also change. You are not your mistakes. You are the story you choose to build from them. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. This proves that you really want to evolve. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Sign up now and continue your growth journey. Until next time.